Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Guy. This is Guy Talk Sports. Thank you so much for clicking on the thumbnail, watching this video. It's time to focus on football. It is so close to football season. We are less than 2 months away from the balls kicking off this season. So, very exciting time. About time we started talking about it. So for today, it's going to be more of a discussion video than anything. Main question we're trying to answer today is, how good can Tennessee football be this year? That's the big question we're gonna try to break down and take a look at. So with the Josh Heupel team, obviously got to focus on the offense, right? Can the defense continue to show improvement? And then we're going to talk about a bunch of other stuff too that's related to the football team that will help determine just how far can this team go. So one thing I want to start doing in this video, and especially for the longer ones in the future, I'm going to put markers in the description down below. So, for instance, like I'll be talking about offense and then defense and just different points. And if you want to jump ahead to any part of the video, I'll try to put at what point in the video that we start talking about each section. So just look down below if you want to jump ahead. Before we get into anything else, though, if you don't mind, right down below this screen, there's a subscribe button. Please click that for me. Help me continue to grow this channel. Let's get into this. So, how good can this Tennessee football team be? Right? That's the question we're trying to answer today. Not going to, dive into the minutia. We're not really looking deep into the roster. We're not going to be projecting starting lineups, looking at position battles. We're just going to hit some highlights, right? Just hit some highlights. We'll talk a little bit about the schedule, but we're going to really dive into all the specific things in later videos as we get closer and closer to the season. This is more an overall picture, right, that we're trying to paint for this team, and kind of predict just how far can they go. So first off, this is a Josh Heupel team, right? It's a Josh Heupel team. So what's the first thing you think of with Josh Heupel? It's offense. And that's what we're going to look at first. So offense is going to determine how far can this team go? Is this a good team or not? That's going to be the offense. That's what it's determining. Joey Halzle is a second-year offensive coordinator. We all know, Heupel is the main guy behind the curtains, but it does help when, he and the offensive coordinator are on the same page. He and Alex Golesh were very much on the same page in 2022, right? Halzle came in last year. Numbers went down. There were a lot of other things other than just Halzle coming in. I don't think that was the limiting factor for last year's offense. But things should run smoother because it's his second year, right? For the offense, I'm seeing a lot of people saying that there's a potential to be like the 2022 season, right? That was the year that you had Hendon Hooker just going off. Jalen Hyatt was catching however many touchdowns he caught that year, 4 in the Alabama game. And you saw an offense that really nobody wanted to go against, right? Nobody wanted any of Tennessee's smoke that year for offense, right? You had the disappointing end to that season, with losing to South Carolina. Hendon Hooker got hurt in that same game. But it was one of the best offenses I've seen, at least with the Tennessee team. And so can this offense match or even get better than that 2022 season? I think it's pretty important to kind of use a little bit of caution when you start saying that we're going to be as good as that 2022 year, or have the potential to be. As good as Nico is, we still haven't really seen him play, consistently play games. Hendon Hooker was such an unreal talent and such a perfect fit for this offense. And I think Nico is going to be, I think he has the potential to be the best quarterback we've had in a long, long time. A long time. But this is his first year as a starter. And so there is, while there's certainly the potential to be as good as the 2022 season, it still could potentially not be as good just because this is Nico's first year. But the talent's there, right? The talent with Nico is there. If he plays like he did in the Iowa game, we have the potential to win a lot of games. But I think it's important to kind of. It's fun to predict that we could be as good as that year or even better. But you still need to take a step back and realize it's his first year starting. Now all the tools are there. I think what are some of the weapons he has, right? So I mean, first off, his legs. That was something that Joe Milton really never really saw him utilize very much last year. Nico, much more, I guess, jittery in the pocket, has really good pocket presence. And he is not afraid to take off. I think Milton at times was almost stubborn to a point when it came to taking off for a run. He always wanted to try to make that throw. Nico is not afraid to tuck it and run. He needs to put on a little bit more weight in order to handle an SEC season. But the potential for him running the ball is there. He has an amazing arm, can make pinpoint throws. So he's obviously where you have to start. Again, it's his first year, so just a little hesitant in that aspect of it. Can he live up to all this hype? He already has all this hype around him. I feel like how I've started off makes me feel like I'm down on Nico. I am not down on Nico at all. I am so excited to get to watch him play this year. I think he's going to be really, really good. How good? We'll see. I think the talent's there. Just watching him, even with the practices, the throws he makes, in that Iowa game, in the bowl game last year, or early, in the New Year's game, he just looked like a champion quarterback, right? He looked like he was able to handle. That was a good Iowa defense. I don't care what anybody says. Iowa didn't want to be there, whatever. That was a good Iowa defense, and he just took him to the shed. And so, super excited about Nico. What are some of the weapons around him? You have Brew McCoy, who's I think something came out saying he's healthy, ready to go. You got returning guys like Squirrel White playing in the slot. Behind him, Mike Matthews, the new freshman who looks like he's just going to be a talent. Dante Thornton, I think they're going to keep him outside. He was really coming along there until he got hurt in the Missouri game last year. So excited to see what he can do because he has somebody that came in, Chris Brazzell, the guy from that we got from Tulane. Got a loaded set of receivers. I mean, this is going to be a really talented group. Is it going to be as good as that group that was in 2022? That's hard to say. You had two guys on that roster that year that were drafted. Could they be better? I think they have the potential to make a lot of noise, right? Brew is just such a bruiser on the outside. It is hard to guard him one-on-one. Brazzell looks like he's going to be able to go up and get the ball. Dante Thornton has that ability too. Just haven't really seen it that much yet. Squirrel, one of the fastest guys I've seen in a Tennessee uniform in a while. And, Mike Matthews, you have Chaz Nimrod, all these other guys that have been on the team. So wide receiver group looks good. And so, I think as far as running back goes, you have Dylan Sampson, who's going to be just an all SEC type running back this year. I think he's talk about fast. Can he be an every down back? I think he has to show that. But he is just so much talent. And then behind him, how healthy is Cameron Seldon for this football season? We'll see. I don't think they've really released anything yet on him. But so he's got lots of weapons out there. Tight end, you've lost some really good tight ends over the last couple of years, and you have a bunch of new guys that have come in. I think that could be a limiting factor. Not necessarily a limiting factor, but you just don't know how good those guys can be in the SEC. I think. And so, Ethan Davis, all the talent, but can he block? The guy we got from Alabama, Kitzelman from Alabama, he's going to be able to block. How good can Holden Stays be that we got from Notre Dame? So plenty of talent around Nico. I think there are some questions, but you have some good receivers. You have some good running backs. Even behind Cameron Seldon, there's some good running backs. So as far as the offensive line goes, I think the biggest question on the offensive line really is left guard. Who's going to go in and step in at left guard? And like I said, we'll really dive into these positions a little bit more in later videos. But how good can left guard be? And the fact that that really is one of your biggest questions on this team shows you just how far we've come with Josh Heupel as head coach. It seemed like every single year there was some huge gaping hole of a question as far as on offense, on defense. And with Josh Heupel, it's weird to say, who's going to play left guard? I wish that had been the case in some of the years past, but left guard's going to be the main question there on the offensive line. Can you keep Cooper Mays healthy at center? That's going to be one of the biggest questions there. So offensively, can you be as good as in 2022? I think so. Can you be better in 2022? That's pushing it. That was a record-setting year. You certainly have a lot of weapons. It's all about how good Nico can. How good can Nico be? It will determine if we're going to be better than we were in 2022 as far as offense goes. So, I think Nico. We talked about him plenty, but that really is where everything starts and stops, right? So, offensively, I think we're going to be set. I think at minimum, it's going to be better than 2023 was. At minimum, I think 2022 is pretty high ceiling. Can you break through that ceiling? Maybe, but it's a tall task. If you can get anything close to 2022, though, you're going to have an amazing offense. Now let's kind of shift gears towards defense. I think last year really showed. It was really to me anyway. It was the first year that you really saw when the offense would sputter some, which is the first time you saw that under Josh Heupel, or I guess saw it here or there. But the offense struggled at times last year, and you really saw the defense step up when it needed to. Like I really think about that Texas A&M game. Defense and special teams stepped up when the offense couldn't do much, and so it seems like every year we've improved, even if it's just by a little. I think if you really want to look at the defense, the first thing you need to look at is the defensive line. I don't know if it's the best defensive line. It certainly has the best player on defensive line that I think we've seen under Josh Heupel. And honestly, I think maybe the best defensive player we've had in quite some time in James Pierce Jr. He is elite. He's probably the best defensive end in the country. And I think he's already, being projected to be a number one, in the first round draft pick. So if he can have even just a similar year to last year, that's going to be awesome. As far as the others, I don't know if it's maybe the most talented, but I think it's definitely the deepest that we've been in a while. Definitely the deepest. So many bodies on the defensive line right now, and that is so beneficial when you're going through an SEC schedule, especially when you're already adding Texas and Oklahoma. We play Oklahoma at Oklahoma this year, and you need a deep defensive line. And this year, we have it. We have that deep defensive line. A lot of big bodies up front. And that's going to improve everything. That's going to improve linebacker play. That's going to improve the secondary. And that's really going to, I think, keep us in games at times is that defensive line. And so looking at linebackers, Keenan Peely is supposed to be back. You have Arian Carter. A lot of talent in the linebacker room. Fairly deep, I think, as well. And so I don't think that's going to really be the limiting factor. The main thing that I think is on everybody's mind is how good is this secondary going to be? How good can the secondary be? Because you have a lot of newcomers, and I think in my mind, you haven't answered that question yet since Josh Heupel became the head coach. Is how can we improve this secondary? The secondary every single year has been a problem. Every single year that's been the weakest group, and again this year it's the biggest question. It's the biggest question. They seemed like they cleaned house after last year. We had a lot of guys leave, a lot of new guys coming in, a lot of good talent that came in. But that's really going to be the main determining factor, I think, is on how great can this team be, is how good can that secondary be? Because so far they have been thrown on every single year. And so offensively, you're at least going to be decent, probably great. Defensive line, you're going to be good. Linebackers, you're probably going to be good. Can that secondary hold up? That's going to be the big question. Can a secondary hold up and keep you in games? Can they get that big pick that they need, the big interception when you need it? Can they shut down that their big wide receiver on the last play of the game? That's going to be the question that needs to be answered this year, and I think that's going to be the main determining factor. Yeah, I guess technically speaking, Nico obviously is going to be your biggest factor, but he's at least going to be good. I think there's still a lot of questions on that secondary, and it's going to have to be, you're going to have to show me before I believe it. I don't care what reports I read about how good everybody's going to be. How good can that secondary be? That's going to be that's going to be the determining factor, I think, and how great this team can be. I think we are we're definitely, I think, a good team, but to be a great team, that secondary really needs to step up this year. So I think that's going to be the big question. So now moving on to special teams, I don't think you have any reason to doubt Mike Eckler. Probably the most fun I've ever watched a coach on the sideline is just watch him anytime there's a special teams play. That man is sprinting, high-fiving, fist pumping. He's having a good time. Doesn't matter what's going on. He's going to be having a good time. But really, our special teams have been elite every single year that he's been here. And I think Josh Heupel hired him that first year, and it's been elite. It's been elite. I think the main question going in with special teams is place kicking duties. And I think there's still that job's still up for grabs. So, we'll see going into fall camp who's getting the nod there to start the after fall camp anyway to get the start there. But yeah, that's really all I got on special teams. I'll address each position group a little bit more in later videos, but special teams wise, I think we're going to be solid, at least especially with Mike Eckler as our coach. Schedule, it's one of the toughest schedules. You're in the SEC, so it's already going to be one of the toughest schedules. You play Alabama and Georgia every year, so you already know you're playing two really good teams. Now, how good can Alabama be? That's something, again, we'll break down in another video, kind of game by game going, I'll break down each team and how good each team's projected to be that we're going to play. But I mean, if you look at our schedule, it's a tough one. You have UTC to open up on August 31st. Okay. You have NC State. They're not a slouch. Kent State. Okay. But then Oklahoma, Arkansas, Florida. You hope to beat Florida, especially this year. Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi State. Okay. Georgia. And then UTEP and Vanderbilt. So you really have Georgia, Oklahoma, NC State, Alabama. There's some swing games there. And so it's one of the toughest schedules. I think it really helps you have a bye week after Alabama before you have to play Kentucky, and that's big time. And so that's important. I'm not necessarily going to break down game by game, but there are some big swing games there. There's going to be some big swing games. This is it's the SEC. It's tough. It's tough, and especially now that you're adding Oklahoma into the mix, it's going to be a hard. It's going to be a hard one at Oklahoma. And so, lastly, I think one of the most important determining factors on how far this team can go is the fact that the college football playoff had that expansion. I think obviously, if it had that expansion in 2022, you're getting in. And at that point, if you can make the playoffs, it's anybody's game, right? Anybody can win at that point. But that was such a good team, and you hated to see them miss it. But you lost South Carolina, you lost your starting quarterback in Hendon Hooker, so you didn't get it. This year, it goes from 4 teams to 12. You just have to be the 12th team, and I will make a video specifically going into who qualifies for these 12 teams and kind of go into all that, because there is some formatting stuff there. But with that expansion, I think it's clear that it's going to be easier to make the playoff than it is the SEC championship. And with that'll open up a whole nother question is, well, how important is the SEC championship then? If you can just get to the playoff, do you want to play the SEC championship? Because honestly, a national championship is more important than an SEC championship. And if you risk having some players get hurt in the championship game, the conference championship game, do you really want to play that? And so that's going to open up a whole different set of questions. But the odds go up, right? The odds have gone up now because you just have to be in those 12 teams. And this team definitely has the ability to be one of the best 12 teams in the country. It's just, can you win some of those swing games to get there? I think you can. But yeah, that's really all I got on that. Overall, this team has the potential to be very, very special. Very, very special. I'm not going to give my win total prediction yet because honestly, I'm not sure what I'm going to predict. I haven't really decided yet. I've been looking at the games, trying to determine, trying to figure out just how good can this team be. But I won't give a prediction yet. But this team can be elite. I really think they can be elite. I think if you can get I think you're going to get good play from Nico. I think if you can get that, the wide receivers need to take a step up. If you remember last year, they were not in sync. Offensive line should be fine. Can the tight ends produce? I think you're going to be fine at running back. If Nico can have a good year, you can have a really good offense. And then if you can get that secondary to step up, like I said, this team really could be elite. I think you have a really good chance to make the playoff. A better chance than most, anyway. It's going to be hard to get there no matter who you are. But you have a better chance than most to make that playoff. Should be a very fun season. I know this is a bit of a longer video, but I really kind of wanted to break down just on how good I think this team can be. I think they can be really, really good, possibly elite. But anyway, that's all I got for this one. I really appreciate you being a part in this conversation, watching the video. If you don't mind, drop a comment down below. How good do you think this Tennessee team can be? How good do you think the Tennessee football team can be? I think they could possibly be elite. We'll see. But, do you have your hopes up? I've had my hopes up in several years past, and they have been just absolutely crushed. But I think this year could be different. I think the potential's there. Thank you so much for watching the video. Like I said, drop a comment. If you don't mind, like the video. That really helps me out. And then if you don't mind, hit subscribe, right? Help me continue to grow this channel. It really helps me out. And then tell somebody about it. Tell somebody, hey, did you see that video that guy did about the football team, how good they can be for Tennessee? Tell somebody about it. That's going to be the main way this channel grows. Thank you so much. I'm a little long-winded in this one. I really wanted to do a big video on this Tennessee football team to kind of start it off in our discussions for the upcoming weeks to football season. So that's it. Thank you so much. Go Vols. We'll see you next time.